Topic: Ecosystem. Environment refers to the surrounding in which we live in. Everything which we see in our surrounding, such as trees, animals, birds, seas, are part of our environment. We have heard the word environment often being used on the television, in newspapers, and by people around us. Our elders tell us that the environment is not what it used to be earlier. Others say that we should work in a healthy environment and global summits. Most of the developed and developing countries are regularly organizing meetings to discuss environmental issues. All organisms, such as plants, animals, microorganisms, and human beings, as well as the physical surroundings, interact with each other and maintain a balance in nature. All the interacting organisms in an area, together with the non-living constituents of the environment, form an ecosystem. If you visit a garden, you will find different plants such as grasses, trees, flower-bearing plants like rose, jasmine, sunflower, and animals like frogs, insects, and birds. All these living organisms interact with each other, and their growth, reproduction, and other activities are affected by the abiotic components of ecosystem. So, a garden is an ecosystem. Ecosystems have no particular size. An ecosystem can be as large as a desert or a lake, or as small as a tree or a puddle. If you have an aquarium, it is an artificial ecosystem. The water, temperature, plants, animals, air, light, and soil all work together. If there isn't enough light or water, or if the soil doesn't have the right nutrients, the plants will die. If the plants die, animals that depend on them will die. If the animals that depend on the plants die, any animals that depends on those animals will die. Ecosystems in nature work the same way. All the parts work together to make a balanced system. Food chains and webs. Every organism needs to obtain energy in order to live. For example, plants get energy from the sun, animals eat plants, and some animals eat other animals. A food chain is the sequence of who eats whom in a biological community to obtain nutrition. A food chain starts with the primary energy source, usually the sun or boiling hot deep sea vents. The next link in the chain is an organism that makes its own food from the primary energy source. For example, green plants make their own food from sunlight using a process called photosynthesis, and chemosynthetic bacteria make their food energy from chemicals in hydrothermal vents. These are called autotrophs or primary producers. Next came organisms that eat the autotrophs. These organisms are called herbivores or primary consumers. An example is a rabbit that eats grass. The next link in the chain is animals that eat herbivores. These are called secondary consumers. An example is a snake that eats rabbits. In turn, these animals are eaten by larger predators. An example is an owl that eats snakes. The tertiary consumers are eaten by quaternary consumers. An example is a hawk that eats owls. Each food chain ends with a top predator, an animal with no natural enemies like an alligator, hawk, or polar bear. As the energy flows from organism to organism, energy is lost at each step. A network of many food chains is called a food web. Depletion of ozone layer. We are an integral part of the environment. Changes in the environment affect us, and our activities change the environment around us. With rapid increase of population, there has been excessive increment in release of waste material. There have been many problems related to it. Let us look at the two biggest problems faced by humanity: depletion of the ozone layer and waste disposal. Ozone, O3, is a molecule formed by 3 atoms of oxygen, while O2, which we normally refer to as oxygen, is essential for all aerobic forms of life. Ozone is a deadly poison. However, at the higher levels of the atmosphere, ozone performs an essential function. It shields the surface of the earth from ultraviolet UV radiation from the sun. This radiation is highly damaging to organisms. For example, it is known to cause skin cancer in human beings. Ozone at the higher levels of the atmosphere is a product of UV radiation acting on oxygen molecule. The higher energy UV radiations split apart some molecular oxygen O2 into free oxygen O atoms. These atoms then combine with the molecular oxygen to form ozone as shown. The amount of ozone in the atmosphere began to drop sharply in the 1980s. This decrease has been linked to synthetic chemicals like chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, which are used as refrigerants and in fire extinguishers. In 1987, the United Nations Environment Programme (UNEP) succeeded in forging an agreement to freeze CFC production at Visit any town or city and we are sure to find heaps of garbage all over the place. Visit any place of tourist interest and we are sure to find the place littered with empty food wrappers. Improvements in our lifestyle have resulted in greater amounts of waste material generation. Changes in attitude also have a role to play, with more and more things we use becoming disposable. Changes in packaging have resulted in much of our waste becoming non-biodegradable. We should stop wasting things. Recycling and reusing must be promoted.